You are listening to I Am Refocused Radio with your host, Shamaya Reed. This show is designed to inspire you to live your purpose and regain your focus. And now, here's your host, Shamaya Reed.
Welcome to I Am Refocused Radio. Once again, we are here today. We have the honor talking to a special guest today. She's in the world of psychology and human behavior, Dr. Foojan Zeine. She is going to share with us all about what she does as an international speaker, author, and licensed psychotherapist with a doctorate in clinical psychology, from intimate relationships to addiction, from trauma healing to groundbreaking AIT, which is awareness integration theory. She's going to share with us all of the amazing things that she's doing in her career. And also, you might see her on Dr. Phil. You might see her at Harvard or at Cal State Long Beach, or you may have seen her work published in top journals. We have a true honor in our house today with a great resume, great story. So first and foremost, I want to say thank you for your time. I know you got a lot of stuff going on, so appreciate you clearing the calendar and spending some time with us.
Thank you so much, Amaya, for inviting me. It's great to be here.
Well, let's kind of start just right off the cuff. When it comes to think about your professional career, what first sparked your passion for psychology and also understanding human behavior?
I think first and foremost was about healing myself, right? So I thought I was depressed. There was abuse, there was divorce, there were so many different immigration. So depression and anxiety, I think it was something that was living with me, and I was surviving it, and I was surviving life. And as I grew, I wanted to learn more. I wanted to be happy. And I did what everybody said in the society. You get a good job, you get married, you buy a home, and you should be happy when you do those things. And I did. I got my first business, I was married, and I got my home, and I wasn't happy. So it seemed to me that I needed something more than that. So that's how I opened to the world of psychotherapy. I went to psychotherapy for myself, and then all of the self-growth seminars. And I really started looking at who I was and all the sides of me, parts of me that were kind of separated from me. And although I was surviving and I was thriving in a sense, but I wasn't fulfilled in any format. So I started looking at different psychotherapy models, the models that work on your cognition and thought process. And as you challenge and changing them, your emotions and behaviors change, or looking at the theories as you poke into emotions and start looking at that, then, you change your thoughts and behaviors, and then the behaviors, and then trauma-informed healing the traumas in mind and body. And kind of took from each one of them where the best of each one that started, but then it had limitations, and the other one was kind of fulfilling what this one had limitations. So I brought them together, and that's what created awareness integration theory. And we've been using this for about 15 years. I know that I've grown with it, and all of the clients and therapists and coaches across the globe that we've trained, that it's making very, very efficient work with deep work. So some of the therapeutic concepts are deep work with your personality, bringing the past and healing it and completing it. And then you look at the present moment, the past, and the future, and how you could create your future and move and create a structure for your future. That's how it all kind of got developed. So it started from me wanting to heal myself, and then it grew to looking at the best of what was out there to heal everyone.
And you did it in a very powerful way, because some people can go Google and type some ideas and say, what is this and what is that? You put the deep work in the deep work. So I want to say that's pretty awesome to not just know about you, but to appreciate the amount of effort it took for you to be where you are. You also have a podcast. You also have an app. You even have an even more direct connection with viewers and listeners. Kind of touch on what it's been like for you to be able to be in top places like Harvard, to where you speak and touch on these important topics.
It's been very humbling and an amazing experience to work with scientists that are very great at what they do. And the interest and the curiosity has always been there in looking at how to grow, how to be the best. So part of that had to go with, I wanted to go back to school and I wanted to learn what was out there, the latest in the scientific world. So that's how I go to all the conferences across the world. Not only I, present, and I was just in Dubai actually 2 weeks ago, presenting as a keynote to neuroscience and mental health conferences. And it's astonishing that everybody's doing such a great work, and we learn from each other and we collaborate. I think more than anything is this concept of collaboration together, because everybody's an expert in one area, and how to come back and collaborate. And I think part of what awareness integration is a collaboration of all these theories and models together, and then bringing that also out with experts who are neuroscientists and expert psychologists and expert trauma worker and body worker and different types of healing that are out there, and whether it was a Western or Eastern. And as you bring these pieces together, you could see that each one of them attempts to heal a different part. And as, because we're a complex human being, for example, when you go through a trauma, the trauma also stays in your muscles and your cellular level. And sometimes just psychotherapy is not enough. It does its work, but it holds in one location where it can't go further. And then that's where possibly different methodologies, as comes together, it can heal. As I was working with people where we're going through the trauma, I heard this research that in a particular place, when you're working with trauma, you introduce a specific type of music. So I just started using that and bringing the music in there. You could see where someone is releasing their trauma, they're going through their depression, and then, as they're coming up and healing, this music heals them faster, and they come into a great space faster. So it's these pieces where you learn from so many different people, and you collaborate and bring these together and move forward with it. So, for example, I went to Dubai and we did a research as the clients were sitting there, and we put EEG on them to monitor their brain, and we put all of the biomarkers on their body so we could monitor their heartbeat and temperature and all of it. And then I was sitting in front of the clients going through the 6 phases. We were monitoring what happens every day, like live at that moment within them. So these are, I think, the collaborative concepts that we could do together to promote not only like having people get healed from mental illnesses, but I think the most of the population are not mentally ill, but they're not necessarily mentally and emotionally well. So it's more about how to become mentally and emotionally well and create fulfilling life for yourself. And yes, there are experts who also need to work on mental illnesses. And I think this is the distinct difference that we could look at, where the theory can work for mental illnesses, but it really also does work for just mental well-being, going through a lot of the turmoils that we all go through life, right? Different developmental stages has their own turmoil. What happens outside of us impacts us. So how to maneuver all of that, I think it's what AIT has been supporting, where we could go from just being regular to mentally well and prevent going into mental illness.
Once again, listening, watching us on Refocused Radio, watching us online or listening to us on radio, want to say this is something that I hope you kind of take some time to share with a friend. I think this is a great educational moment us to enjoy. When you look at how you go into today's topic, this is a great segue going topic. When you think about happiness, how do you personally define happiness? Is it a feeling? Is it a mindset? Or is it something else entirely?
I think both of what you said. It's definitely a state. It's a mind state. And it does have all of the components. It requires a particular way of thinking. It does create the happiness, emotion, and joy and gratitude in there. And then it also has behaviors where how we connect with others and create collaborative and connections, right? I think there was a Harvard study of 100-year study. And as they went through the study from different generation of the same family growing in generation, after 100 years, they've been doing, the surveys almost every year, but then after 100 years, they still found the most important factor for happiness is having meaning, holding gratitude, and holding meaningful relationships with others. So, we are not panda bears, we're human beings. So the connection that we have with others and the love that the love and caring that we offer each other, and not only offer it, but also receive it. And so be grateful for it. And the way we can think about things, sometimes our brain only looks at the negativity because it wants to protect itself. So that also creates depression and anxiety. So it's okay that we're looking at the negativity in order to protect ourselves, be alert and not be surprised, and all of those. But if we could just kind of like extend the box, extend the lens, and look at all of it, look at the positivity plus the negativity that is there. So if I need to protect myself against the negativity, I will, but also enjoy the positivity. Also be grateful for what there is, because our resilience, our hope, our power comes from all of the positivity that is there. So instead of constantly looking at what am I missing so that I can get it, and it's fine. I can constantly look at what am I missing so that I can make myself better and gain it. But can I side by side also look at my strength, my endurance, my resiliency, what I offer the world, which is positive, and then be able to receive from the outside world also, not only, what might not work for them and be able to maybe offer something, but also see their positivity that shows up for me and be able to enjoy that and be grateful. So a combination of the way we think, the way we feel, and the way we act creates that result of being happy and being fulfilled, and create happiness for people who are around us.
I like the last part you said about create happiness, because people's past, sometimes that can get in the way of how to give happiness to others or receive happiness from others. When you think about how a person pursues quote unquote happiness while dealing with their past, what are some of the things that you've seen in your research on how they have that breakthrough moment where I can do this?
You're absolutely right that our past is continuously with us, and we're basically conscious somewhere around 5 to 8%. Almost everything else is subconscious, but that subconscious has been made by our past and how we've brought it together. So part of becoming aware of how we think, feel, and behave, and how we create is important. But then when we look at something like an emotional intensity that shows up for us, or the beliefs that are coming for me, well, they're all coming from the past. So usually in one of the phases, on the fourth phase of the model, what we do is we start looking at what am I hearing from myself in the way that I speak or the way that I behave, and the talk that I do in my own head. What are some of the negative beliefs that I hold as a generality about myself or the world? And then we could take that and kind of like go through and look at when is it the first time that I made that up for myself, right? Obviously I made that up. I said that to myself at one point. So we can go to the event of the past in your memory and look at that event. A lot of times, in psychotherapy, I've been a psychotherapist for 32 years. Many of the models, when we used to go to the past and look at the memory, because we wanted to offer empathy and, create that kind of love for that part of ourselves, which was wounded and upset and hurt, our compassion and empathy would come. But I think with that, we also instigated a lot more of the concept of victimhood. Right? It wasn't just about that. Yes, I was powerless at that moment. It was more like, I am powerless. We made it very much a generalized concept. So this time in this theory and this intervention, when we go, not only we have the compassion and look at that part of us that is vulnerable, that is powerless at times. We all always can be powerless because something happens. But also to look at the resiliency of who we are and who we were even at that moment that felt powerless, but look at the endurance that in the midst of all that was happening, there was something that was pulling me, was something that was holding me. Even as a little girl, I was still strategizing how to survive. And those are the pieces that we also still want to look back at and change the narrative, because all the research shows that every time we go back to a memory, we're actually changing the memory. Like, memories are not set in concrete. It's an actual shift that would happen. So it depends on how we go back and look at it. We install kind of like a different memory on top of that memory. So this time we want to go back, but not only acknowledge the vulnerability, but also start acknowledging the strength. Because when I start acknowledging the strength that I've had through childhood, I built up the bucket, kind of, I built up the whole savings account of me being strong and looking at how I was and looking at those strategies. It fulfills us. It creates an inner strength and inner peace for us that I know that no matter what happens, I'll learn to survive it as much as everybody else is doing and moving forward. So it takes us away from, a constant anxiety and a constant putting ourselves down. And that strength that shows up from the past, and then we could bring it in integrated where I can learn from it, whatever it was. Obviously, I've learned from it and moved it forward, but I can consciously learn from it and see, I don't have to make a decision as a 5-year-old anymore, right? I'm 63. I can make a decision as a 63-year-old and have access to all of my strength and knowledge today versus get caught from, one part of me, which was separated. So I think we all deserve to be a whole person. And the more that we work through and bringing all other parts of us, which was separated because we got overwhelmed emotionally. So at one point, we put it in the closet to make it safe, but it was left in the closet. So it's almost like, okay, come back and be a part of me so I can be a whole person at any time that I'm making a decision and honor myself, honor all parts of myself. And I think living from that place of moving forward, creating our goals, our ambition, what it is that I want, and creating a vision about the future, and then deal with things that are happening daily. And as I, kind of like monitor the intensity of an emotion that shows up, I can catch on. Is this emotion based on what's happening right now, and I need to do something? Because obviously, the emotion is telling me do something. It's a message for me. Or it's not about today and the intensity doesn't match today what's happening and it's still somewhere, back there, it's not finished. So then I can go back and complete and come back. One of the things that we've done, Shamaya, is because we did the research in the Cal State Long Beach in some of the classes, like we took 4 classes, and 2 of the professors, my colleagues, did this in their own classes where we gave them a journaling of different areas of their life, like career, finance, your relationship with your body, your relationship with your parents, mates, all of those. And then they just do a guided journaling. And they did it as an assignment, right? So we did the pre-test and the post-test, and no coach, no psychotherapist, we still found 64% minimization of depression and anxiety. So that was astonishing, that without even, just going through the journaling. And that's what led to creating the app, the Foojan app, which people can get it from Apple Store or Google. And the Foojan app does that, which we could go through the journaling of all the phases, who you are today, heal the past, bring all the past and heal it, and then create the future that you intend to create. And that's when we saw the self-help results are also astonishing. Then we created the app. And through the app this past year, we've actually seen people state that they're getting about 71 to 75% improvement in that area of life that they are working on by using it once. So it's the results are really, really astonishing.
With that intensive research, that takes a lot of energy, preparation, organizing data through. So, man, you're doing that great work. Let's have folks ready watching us online. Talking to our guest today, Dr. Foojan Zeine. Go to her website, FoojanZeine.com. We're talking about happiness, life, AIT, awareness, integration theory. My next question is, earlier when you talked about people go through things. A lot of people hold on to things that happen in the past, and sometimes something builds up and it reaches the boiling point to where that's a big difference versus someone cuts you off. I think that's an instant irritation. But building of a long-term emotional situation, as some of your research found in people or individuals, rather, what AIT, how it's different from therapeutic approaches. They are going through those emotional traumas, if you will.
Sure. I think one of the most important factor is looking at that I'm the one who's creating my thoughts, my emotions, and my behavior, and then therefore my results and I co-create, what's happening out there. So when I start looking at how I'm dealing with this, how I'm coming through, how am I responsible for sharing with the people around the world, my friends, and others, my family members, my coworkers, what I want. The responsibility is mine. It's not about other people trying to guess what's going on with me. So the understanding of my reality is something I'm making, and I can kind of make whatever that I say that I am, and then deal with the world where this is a reality here, another person have their own reality, and we meet somewhere in the middle in our interaction, and there's two realities coming together, right? And then you bring the third person, there's like three bubbles, each person, they have their own stuff, and then there's three bubbles that are reality that are meeting. So it takes an understanding of how I can converse, how I can come across, how I can see and perceive, and then check my assumptions, because we all live in assumptions, right? We had to. As a human species, we're trained to make an assumption, because if we're in a tribe, we're in a jungle, and an animal or another tribe shows up, by the way that they look, I have to assess immediately, are they safe or should I protect myself, right? So we read into people's behaviors and stuff. But it's really, the way that we're perceiving, and we need to reality check to see if that's accurate, because we can feel hurt about an assumption that we've had, which might not even be accurate. So again, being responsible for the way I think, the way I feel, the way I behave, the way I assume, and the way that I can actually communicate and create this collaborative relational concept that I have. And we all live in relationships. Even with objects, we have a relationship, right? So if I can take responsibility for my end of the relationship, I'm not taking responsibility for anybody else's. I'm just taking responsibility for my end. And from that I think it becomes so important to keep becoming aware. So I've said usually, let's create two cameras. One goes in and watches my thoughts, my emotions, my body sensations, and my reactions internally. And And the other one is set up to look at my behaviors, which is outwardly, and then the impact of, how I impact the world, my friends, my relationships. If I just said this, although with my best intention, how did it impact the other person? Because it came out of my mouth and they had a reaction. Their reaction is their own, but I also have to look at the way I said it so that I, ignited that reaction out of all the reactions that were possible. Because I can only have control about my side. I don't have control about others. So I'm going to observe what's happening inside. And if I like what's going on as a result of this relationship, then I'll see how I did it so I can keep producing that good result. If it didn't create an appropriate result that I was intending or wanting, then I can go back and see what part of it I can change. Do I need to shift my thought or emotion and behavior to entice different kinds of relational impacts and relational results here, whether I'm at work with my coworker or boss, or whether I'm with my mate or my child, doesn't matter. We're constantly relating to other people. So that piece becomes the cornerstone of how I can monitor me and consistently see what part of this I can shift, change in order to create or co-create with the world what I want and intend and want to say. Then, as I said, we look at where is it that I get very hyped up and I'm not able to produce that. Then I'll go start looking at the past and see, what are my blocks? What are the things I've said to myself that it's not allowing me to move forward? Clean them up, heal them up, and then be very intentional about what I want to create. How do I have to think, feel, and act in order to create what I want, right? So if I come to your show and I'm saying, I like to create that your audience connects with me and I can connect with them, I can share with them everything I've learned, and at least after we're done, you and the audience gets, the journey and how this has helped me and how possibly, even if it's, one thing that they take from it, then I'm responsible to see how I want to come across, how I want to speak, what tone I want to speak, what I want to say to you, and share with your audience. That becomes my responsibility to be able to create that result. And then to be able to be intentional before an act, then go with that intentionality, and then observe and evaluate. Did I create what I said I wanted to? And if yes, how did I do it? And if no, what was the obstacle? How could I do it another way? So it's you create this intentional living, and this intentional living then allows you to feel more empowered, more in control of you, and more into living life as a sports person that is in there living, not just then as an observer who's just sitting there, or the judge or the opinion person, but you're in the field consistently living every minute because you're aware of you, others, and the interaction that's happening consistently together.
With all that you said, one that comes to mind, just a thought, is we heard a phrase growing up, maybe not younger people today, but back in my day, we would always hear, get outside, get some fresh air. Do you believe sometimes it takes people to get outside of their head and get some fresh air? Because I like what you said about the 2-camera thing. Because when you think about responsibility and you think about, okay, where's 2 perspectives, where's this camera looking at, that's kind of like more personal, internal, but what about the other camera that's like the third party and they're just watching like a reality show and I'm the star? How am I going to cringe if I find out, maybe I do need to make some adjustments because it's probably not everyone else that I think is causing my issues?
Exactly. Yes. And, for the best of, I know I was in a meeting and, I was all passionate and talking and, I had very much of a righteous point and I wanted to share. And, later on, the person who I was sharing this in a meeting, and I invited her somewhere, she laughed and she says, of course I'm going to come. Just you promise me that you won't yell at me. And it was interesting because I thought I was just being passionate and sharing, and I was, sharing, being responsible. But somehow, as she took it, was that I was yelling. So I said, no, I'm sorry. No, this is, and I cleaned it up because that wasn't my intention. But it's interesting that how we come across to us is a particular way. But I have to see how I came across in that relationship and acknowledge it versus, no, I didn't yell. This is your issue. I can go in that place, or I can be responsible that if, however I came across that she thought I was yelling, I need to own it. I need to own that I made it appear that way. And then I can, clean it up, which is say, I'm sorry, that's not what my intention was. I just wanted to share this. But if it came across, yes, I'm passionate and I'm forceful when I'm talking about business, and all shows up very powerful. And maybe that power at times it can be intimidating. And I need to watch that and understand how it's coming. So that's what I mean by being responsible and accountable. But then what you said, you come out of yourself. You're not in here in this bubble, but I'm living out here with you. So you matter. I matter, and whatever's happening in the between matters. And if I can, regardless of how it makes me feel, pisses me off or upset, or I get hurt, or you get pissed off, if I'm committed to cleaning this up and, having this dialogue go along so that it's to the benefit of both of us, and it's not out of harming either one of us, it's more to the benefit of both of us. How I exist in here matters, and how you exist. How I perceive matters, and how you perceive matters. And then we could collaborate and connect from our differences. We're not going to ever be the same. None of it. I'm not even the same person as yesterday, right? Like even our different parts come in and have a dialogue with each other. But the point is, can the dialogue be ultimately toward the benefit of both of us in this relationship? So that's what the model offers, is for you to own you and own your resolve. But then in order to do that, you got to own the internal process, which is your thought process and emotional process, and how your desires, all of everything that is happening. You got to own this in order then to be able to own what's happening out there.
We could probably talk another 30 minutes because I have some follow-up questions, but I know we're getting short on time, so I'll say this. When you think about all the research that you've been able to utilize with your studies and understanding people and their behaviors, when you think about the word peace, that's a word that can be different meaning in different ways for different people. But generally speaking, if we zoom out a little bit and we just look at the word peace, what do you think about when you see that sense of calmness? Is it a sense of what does that mean to you, and how does that you believe can be connected to what you learn this integration theory?
When you say that word, what shows up for me is acceptance. Like if I accept myself and different parts of myself, I will have inner peace. If I accept you and all your differences, then we'll have peace. And I think that's what shows up for me. I think the peace is the external manifestation of acceptance. An acceptance of all the different parts of us and different uniqueness of every individual that is out there. There's no one which is exactly the same out there. That's why we have a different fingerprints or different, if you examine the eyes, it's a different eye. We know this biologically, but for some reason, when it comes to our human dynamic and relational, there's an expectation of sameness. versus acceptance of uniqueness. And, that to me brings peace.
If someone's watching and listening to us right now and they're like, well, Dr. Zeine, I feel like happiness is outreach. What would you say to that person to kind of help them rethink that process of how they feel in that moment?
It might appear distant to some people. A person who's really, really depressed and hopeless, that becomes very, very distant. I used to work with a hospital setting for 3 years, which I was part of the suicide watch. And I could tell you every night, almost until 3:00 in the morning, I was sitting with people who literally done with life and wanted to kill themselves. And sometimes you would listen to them and you're like, all right, if I was in their place, I would do exactly the same thing. I'm done. And I think it was at that moment where I went into this search of almost 5 years search across the world, wherever I could go, in what is beyond just, our head and what is beyond psychology even, to keep looking at the point of life and power of life and, the purpose of life and all of those. Because when you sit with someone who is truly, truly depressed, just positive words throwing at them, it's insulting. They're like, it's not that I didn't think of that. I already knew that, but that just doesn't help me. Where I am, it doesn't help me. But I do also get that it's a far-fetched concept for some people. But everything happens in step at a time. If I want to go into Himalaya, I don't go, immediately. I got to get my body ready. I got to take the steps until I get there. So even if happiness is out there, out of reach, if I believe I can deserve it, then I'll start slowly but surely in taking the steps. So first is almost looking at, the beliefs that they generalized about themselves and the world. Because the generalization of it kind of puts it in a cement. Because then you can't go anywhere, right? Like if I'm bad, I can't move around. I won't see anything that good I'm doing. If I say the world is bad or the world is unsafe, which I kind of just generalize and stamp it at that, I box it in a way that I can't maneuver around it. So first step is unboxing these things and looking at the exceptions to the rules where the person has found, where it could be one moment of love and gratitude and one thing they could say. They could find one thing that it was great about them. And then you start with those pieces and you keep accumulating the positivity and kind of like forcing the positivity within. It's like a huge, huge black place, and you bring a little bit of a light into the darkness. It's not going to light up the whole room, but at least it'll bring a little. And then, you start adding another candle, another place, until that opens. So I would just say, I think the first thing is knowing that you deserve it. You might not know how to get there yet, but first want it, desire it, and know that you deserve to be happy like any other human being or any other being on the face of the earth. And we'll figure out the way together.
Well, I will add to that also will be sometimes the spark doesn't happen until you happen. And so, like you said earlier about endurance and building up savings, you can say build up the savings of happiness in life. That takes commitment, that takes courage, it takes a decision to be made. And part of that decision may not be easy today, but if you at least try today. And when I say try, I don't mean like think about it. I mean like 1% better every day. If you can do that part, then like you said moments ago, that dim light will start to get brighter over time.
Yes. What I've noticed also, Shamaya, is that when you kind of get out of yourself and what you need to get for yourself and pick one, even if it's one animal, even if it's one human being, one task that you can offer the world, you'll see your purpose in the world. you'll see your purpose in the world. I've known people, I've worked with people that was interesting where they wanted to kill themselves throughout and it didn't work out. It didn't help. Thank God. And then they would get an illness, and that is a terminal illness. And usually with this concept would be, okay, I couldn't do it, but at least now, it's happening. I can just sit and say, all right, take over cancer and we're going to be done. That's not what happens though. Immediately this fire that I'm going to beat cancer. And then when I bring it to their attention that it's interesting that this is what you want to do, although, you wanted to kill yourself all these years. And they're like, but my mother needs me, or so-and-so needs me. And immediately and when they were depressed, they couldn't see that they need him. But the minute that they say, okay, you're not going to be in this life anymore, suddenly this concept came as I'm being good for someone else. And that created the purpose to live, to be there for someone else, to be a bigger than you. So sometimes that is the peak of, okay, change something in your day, that even if it's one act that you're just doing, that you are making a difference in someone else's life, gives us the purpose of life.
We've been talking to Dr. Zeine. Go to her website, FoojanZeine.com, talking about happiness in life for today's show. And if you want to learn more about awareness, integration, and theory, make sure you connect with her sooner than later. Like we've been saying throughout the whole show, it starts one decision. I mean, you're literally a one decision away from changing your course of where you're heading. And it starts in the moment. It don't start 10 years from now. It starts right here. So once again, I want to say to Dr. like I always want to say thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. It was great to be with you and everyone who's with us.